Welcome to the podcast for anyone who has been known as that teacher.
That teacher who is always dreaming up new ideas. That teacher who has an Instagram account. That teacher who goes on TikTok to share the latest teaching trends. That teacher who isn't afraid to try new things.
We're Megan and Alyssa, and we were both known as that teacher before we started our ed tech company, Pop PD.
If you're an educator who's been looking for something more opportunities to lead, grow, and inspire others, we are here to show you the newest pathways to leadership for modern educators.
We'll interview teachers who have taken their leadership beyond the four walls of their classroom to become thought leaders in the online space.
You'll hear about the ups and downs of their experience sharing their educator journey online, and we hope you'll be inspired and re-energized by their unique stories. We're chatting in this episode about internal versus external marketing for your online course and why it's so important that you nail both of these pieces when launching your online course to maximize your impact and your income. We'll chat about how to purposefully plan your learning experience to help your learners gain momentum so they get the most out of your program. And if you haven't listened to the first episode in this mini-series for course creators yet, be sure to go back and play the last episode where we talked about alternatives to creating the old school traditional modules and lesson plans format of an online course. We're putting this series together to kick off Pop Studio, the newest arm of business for Megan and I, where we are helping creators, consultants, and coaches design online programs that are unlike anything anyone has seen before. We're building a set of custom creator tools that keep the learner in mind, and we're helping you get started with our group coaching program and one-to-one services to help you map your ideas, visualize your shareable method, and get your program launched. Go to the link in our show notes to check out our offer and get pre-sale pricing now through January. We're back with another duo episode for coaches, creators, consultants, people who are thinking about sharing their thought leadership out with the world and thinking about putting it into an online program that they can sell and make some money. And Megan and I love talking about this topic. Megan is here with me today so that we can talk to these course creators. Megan, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm excited about this one today. We mentioned this in a prior episode, the kind of the importance of onboarding in an online learning experience and how, you got to get people in the door. Not only do you have to sell to them, you got to get them to purchase, but you have to get them to get started. Online course completion rates and even starting rates are really low. People drop off. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise, a lot of other programs, a lot of things happening. So getting them in and really kind of welcoming them with a very specific and intentional onboarding portion is so important. Alyssa and I kind of talked about in the past the idea that the experience starts with the onboarding. The learning experience and how they feel coming in is really part of that. And a lot of this stuff is linked to the learning experience, but it does kind of fall more in that kind of marketing realm, which we know Alyssa is top notch at. So she's really going to drive today's discussion. I'm really excited, Alyssa, to hear what you have to say. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of course onboarding and you use this concept of, is it internal marketing that you kind of talk about? Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, it's funny because when we're putting together our online course, we're really thinking about what's happening in the program. And we also think about the marketing to get people in the door. But there's marketing that happens after they buy because you need that buy-in and you need them to complete the coursework to get the result that you promised they would get. And we want them to have that result to give us great feedback for great testimonials and just because we're good people and that's what we want. And so the marketing doesn't stop when somebody buys your course. We know this because most people, I'd love to get a stat on this, but like a lot of people don't even log in after they've purchased a course. And maybe you, if you're listening, have some courses on collecting dust on your digital bookshelf. I know I do. Guilty. So this process, this internal marketing process begins with your thank you page after they buy. It's a really important part of the journey. Your thank you page after the person has purchased your online course should have a couple of key things on it. The first is the link to where they should log in, big button. And then I want you to remind them to bookmark it. And whatever you've got to do to get them to bookmark it, like that is the number one thing they need to do. The second thing I would do on there is think about doing a very short, like 1 minute video to validate their purchase. think about after you make a big purchase, and maybe this isn't even a big purchase, but like you make a purchase and there is an immediate sense of like, did I do the right thing? Was that the right thing? And a short video on the thank you page saying like, this was great. I can't wait to dive in with you. The first thing we're going to do in the course is this. Come on over, log in, come into our community and answer this specific question. What's your favorite snack or whatever? Giving them an immediate look at you and an immediate interaction with you, and then a step to do next is really nice on the thank you page. So bookmark the login portal, do a quick little video, and then if you have a community or any other kind of first step they need to take, that should be right on that thank you page.
I love that. Super actionable, those three things. And, it's really easy to just use. There's pretty much always in these platforms a kind of generic thank you page. Thanks for purchasing,
Yeah.
from us. And I think, you're going to talk about emails in a second, which are huge as well. But I really like that idea of emphasizing it on that landing page. It just takes a couple minutes, couple steps to customize that or to add a couple pieces in. But it may seem simple, right? Give them the link to log in. How many times, Alyssa, have you gotten a course? I know it's happened to me where you can't actually find it. So
Yeah.
I love very practical but useful advice there.
Yeah, and I think that it's easy to forget. There's so much to do for a launch. There's so much to do to get your course ready that your thank you page just goes by the wayside. You're like, oh, like, don't even worry about that. But it's key. It's the first thing they see after they've purchased. So it's the first reassurance that they've done the right thing. And it's the thing that's going to kick off their journey, or it's the moment where they're going to X out and forget they ever even bought it. And so it's a really important pivotal moment. I forgot one thing there that I might add is if there's any special feature to your course, like if there's an app where they can listen, or there's like a audio version podcast they can put on their podcast player, I would put that on the thank you page too. Anything that they need to like set up, and they're going to feel good about that too.
Yeah, it's that kind of there's actions of setting the scene almost for them.
Mhm.
The way to think about it, if you're like me, is well, I've got to get my school supplies, I've got to have my
Yeah.
notebook, I've got to have
Notebook.
my water to my before I even start this course, I've got to be mentally prepared, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's almost like prepping the space. And so by making sure you also make sure they have all their resources, they know where everything is, they have it saved. So when they go to sit down and in their mind, maybe they've even already carved out a time that they want to engage in your program. Most likely it's not going to be right after they purchase, right? I mean, sometimes possibly, but usually that's going to be kind of a later thing. So cut down that time, you're saying, and kind of like prepping them so that when they sit, they can get right into it.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So what else? So there's that thank you page is great. What would you say is kind of the next step or the next component that people should consider?
Definitely your emails. You want to have an onboarding sequence. And this is honestly not just for courses. If you're a service provider, you want onboarding emails. Anytime anybody has purchased something from you and you have the ability to email the people who have purchased, we want to do an onboarding email sequence. And there's a lot of different reasons to do this. The one is, again, that buy-in and getting them going, some touch points with them. We want them to get used to interacting with us as their like coach or instructor. And we want them to know exactly where they can get support and help. And if they missed anything on the thank you page, we want to make sure they have it. We don't want anyone looking around like, wait, where's that course I bought? Or I don't know, I have a billing question. Where do I go? Or I can't get started. What suggestions do you have? We just don't want them like sitting with their questions for too long. And so the onboarding sequence can really help eliminate some of that right up front.
I love that. If you're anything like me, you have this fear that you're missing something the
Yeah.
whole time. Usually it comes with like taxes or
Yeah.
something like that, right? But even with this course, like you never want them to feel, am I missing something? Did I
Yeah.
miss a step or something to do? And I think that shout out to kind of service providers or anyone who offers something that's, not just an online program that somebody can just access, but any kind of experience you're offering, making it very clear what those next steps are, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I think I have like a specific onboarding sequence I'd love to share. What do you think?
Ooh, hell yeah. Give
Okay.
it to us.
So I think the first email that I would send out is really a connection email
Mhm.
and a place where they can do all the things that I just mentioned on the sales page. So celebrate and validate them for purchasing. This should come right after they buy. Give them the portal link, give them something specific to do within the community, some specific question to come over and ask, or some specific thing to share. Another fun one is share on social. So give them a badge so that they can then go share on social that they've joined, which feels really, really validating. You can also celebrate them on your social media for joining. And then the key here is we want them to reply. So we want them to hit reply and communicate with us. That's going to kick off our support to them. It's going to kick off our connection and relationship with them. And so maybe it's like hit reply with the top thing you want to get out of this experience, or your top struggle right now. And if you can do a touch point with them in the very beginning, even if you have a program that has few people in it, this could even be like, set up a 15-minute chat with me, or send me a voice message on Instagram and let me know that you've joined. It's your first touch point with people. And so you want them interacting. And then the second email, I would send that one out maybe like 2 days later. And the purpose of this email is if they have not yet logged in and started the first lesson, we want to take the mystery away from the first lesson. We want to show them exactly what's in the first lesson and what they'll get out of that first lesson. So tell them exactly how long it is, like, 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to learn. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what you're going to need. So exactly setting the scene. I like that. Show them exactly what it's going to be like so that it's easier for them to picture diving in to that very first lesson. And you can also validate them. Like the subject line can be something like, let's take the next step together, or let's jump in together. Like validate that it's okay that they haven't logged in yet. That's really important.
Yeah, I like that. Let's just kind of pause right there and recap the first two. And it's two of how many of these you're going to walk us through, by the way, just so we have a sense.
4,
Four,
maybe
great.
more,
So we're
4 plus.
halfway through. So email one, I like that connection is kind of the big theme there. So a lot of
Yes.
different things that you could do, mirroring that thank you page, but also some nice other ones nice other pieces you mentioned, like connecting with the community and getting the reply in that connection. So I think that's really great with email one. And then email two is also kind of in the same vein. It's connecting, but in a kind of like putting your arm around them and like really
Yeah.
walking them
Yeah.
into the classroom, the virtual
Yes.
classroom, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's really kind of getting, and both of these are like getting them on your side, getting them on your team, having them feel like they really are a part of this experience. That's
Yep.
kind of what it seems like to me.
Yep. 100%.
Awesome. That's
So
great.
then, email 3 is going to go out a little bit later, maybe like 4 days after they've purchased. And this one is the action oriented one. So we're assuming at this point, like, hopefully they've logged in, hopefully they've consumed some content. They may or may not have. And you can segment them, like, depending on what you use for a course provider, you may be able to actually see who has not logged in at this point and send one email to the people who have not logged in and one email to the people who have. But this is where we want them to actually like share and celebrate anything that they have accomplished. And we want to be specific about this. Like the easiest one, honestly, that doesn't put any pressure on anybody having to have logged in is like, come over to the community and share a picture of your workspace. Like where are we working on this together? Or share a before picture. So let's say you have a course on organization. It's like share a picture of your desk now, and then we'll share one again at the end. Or it could be like, did you do the activity from lesson 1? Snap a picture of it and come over to our community and show it to us. This a specific action that they should take based on the work.
I love that. And I think that it's, we talk a lot about implementation, you and I, and how that's really such a key to online courses. And so really prompting that, not even just kind of sitting and watching the video or going through the first, couple pieces of your experience, but really kind of taking ownership of that implementation and that, kind of like proving that they've done an action, and not in the sense that like, you're like, did you do this yet? But really like kind of encouraging them and that communal sense of like, ooh, getting to see what everybody else is doing. And there's kind of a momentum that builds there too, with benefiting the rest of the students in the program.
Yeah, you can even like spice it up a little bit and do a giveaway or something for somebody that shares. This should feel really supportive and celebratory. Uh, I didn't say this earlier, but I meant to say I think it's really great in a program if you can front load the support. So
Mm.
making sure that they feel supported in the first like 2 to 4 weeks that they're in the program versus like some course creators will have like a course and then offer ongoing support. Like, I'm going to do one live every single month to answer your questions. Well, then people know it's going to be there forever. If you add front loaded support, like I'm going to do a Q&A call, or I'm going to be here in the Instagram DMs for the first 4 weeks of the program to support you, it adds some urgency to them getting started. So another thing you could do in this email is remind them, hey, if you're stuck on taking action, or this feels like you're not ready, or you're feeling like you're getting behind, don't forget, you can shoot me a message over on Instagram over the next 4 weeks. You have me at your disposal. Or there's a Q&A call tonight. Come and just even listen into this call. But like, front loading that support actually puts some urgency on and really holds them through the beginning, which is the hardest part for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And it's, part of the learning experience is getting people going. And there is that momentum of once they get started, if you have a well-crafted program, which we know that our listeners would have a good
Yeah.
program that people are in. That's a given. But it really just helps them get over that hurdle, right? Like it's really about just lowering that barrier. We've talked about it before, but that's really what these emails are doing, is kind of helping them just get there.
Yeah. So the
Awesome.
the last email I have in the sequence, we're going to go even further out. We're going to go about a week after they've joined the course. Now, at this point, you have people who, if they haven't started, they feel guilty. Probably, they're
Mhm.
like, they know they haven't started, and they're like, oh, I meant to log in. I should have logged in. I haven't done it by now, and so we have to be really careful with this email. We don't ever want anybody to feel behind, and you can say that in your emails, like, you can send an email out specifically again to those people who have not started and say, you are not behind, and give them like a cheat sheet of how they can either catch up if there's some kind of a pace, or say, you know what, you can skip this lesson, and if you need this, go straight to this lesson. You can give them sort of like a scenario based thing where it's like, hey, it's okay if you miss the first couple of lessons, you can actually skip that. If you want to just dive in right here, you'll get your quick result. You can also have them respond and say, like, what are you looking to achieve right away, and then point them to the right lesson. So give them some choice and some flexibility. Validate that they're okay that they haven't started yet. You can also peel back the curtain again of showing them, like, here's how you could potentially do this. So I like to do like, hey, my first lesson is about XYZ. You're going to be able to do XYZ after you listen. It's about 15 minutes long. So pop it on in your car on the way to work, play it while you're doing the dishes tonight, fold some laundry, play it on the side. Like, give them some scenarios and peel back the curtain of what this could look like if they were to dive in right now. And then for the people who have already started, you might give them a sample calendar to keep going. Like, I know you've started, and so here's a pace at which you might want to continue this. Maybe take a day or two to implement, and here's how you'll implement it. And then on day 3, you're going to come back and do this lesson. Give them like a sample pace. And that email will capture and get some momentum going during a time when is typically a dead zone, like a week out. If people haven't gotten that momentum, it might be a dead zone being like where people could drop off and never log in again. So we really want to capture that. And then we want to anticipate where those other dead zones are going to pop up within our course. And it could be like halfway through, or a specific lesson that's really tough, like in Teacher Hustle University. Unfortunately, like the second stack, I somehow did this. I think we might have fixed it when we did my upgrade, but like everybody struggled with this getting through the second stack because the content was like, it was building your web page. So it was like, ugh, it was such a long thing to implement. So I had a lot of coaching surrounding that stack, and like a lot of helping people through it, and then reminding them that they could skip it and come back later. But I knew that was a dead zone. So like anticipating that and having some emails and some support around that.
And what I like about this one in particular is it really leans into that personalization. But it's a much lighter lift, because you're not the idea is not to be rewriting these emails for every individual person. Maybe if you're
Right.
doing a very small,
You
cohort
could do,
experience,
yes, personal
you add
outreach.
that personal touch. That is kind of a nice thing for something that's a real high ticket, or something, maybe a service or something with that higher touch. But generally speaking, this is a handful of emails that you write once, and then you have, and
Mhm.
you use them, and you're segmenting, but based on some pretty basic, you know observations on people's
Yep.
behavior. So it feels personal and it feels customized. I think especially that one about people feeling guilty for not starting, I think
Yeah.
that in particular is a great one. If they get the other email, the email, congratulations, you've been in for a week, the impact that that will have psychologically on them is
Yeah.
way more detrimental than even if you weren't to say anything, right? So
Right.
by just simply having even those two separate emails after that 1 week for this one that you're recommending, I think is huge as far as, just continuing to build that rapport with them and to get them, alongside you in the process of really actually completing and implementing in the course.
Yeah, and I think this comes up in your community as well. So if you do have a community alongside your course, you've got some internal marketing happening there. You are, as people are coming in, you are hopefully personally welcoming them to the group. You're encouraging your other community members to welcome them. I really like to right away like ask them a little bit about what they teach or what they do and then try to connect them with another member of the community who also does that, so that right off the bat they have like a touch point, an accountability partner. And then being able to encourage them to start out by answering a specific question or doing a specific thing makes the group that much less intimidating. Sometimes you get into a community and you're like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, how does everybody act here? And so
What do I
giving
do
them
with
that
my
norm.
hands?
Yeah. Yeah. Give them that norm right off the bat. All of these are little things. They make a really big difference in the impact that your program has.
Yeah, you and I talk a lot about this idea of it can feel kind of awkward or sometimes even just unproductive to enter into a space, a learning experience, or especially with these communities, and not really know what to say or not
Mhm.
feel like you have anything to say. So to be there for a specific purpose
Mhm.
and have a specific prompt to answer just really helps everyone be able to participate, whether it's something silly like talking about French fries versus potato chips, just as a callback to our last episode, kind of mixing in like one or two lighthearted things. I would actually say, start with some of those and have them beginning, and then actually really get into some of the more content based ones and have those be really purposeful, and kind of get into the nitty gritty of what you're teaching. Drilling into those, I think, as the program goes on, really helps advance people, not only in just kind of them being encouraged to keep going with the content, but really will kind of deepen their understanding and ability to apply as they get ideas from other people. Having that kind of common ground and sharing best practices and challenges that they're going through, you got to set the tone with that, maybe with some lighthearted stuff to start, but having it be really purposeful and tied to that content gives them a reason to be there and to keep coming back.
Yeah. I think also, you can have a lot of fun with this. You can, if you feel like that the engagement in your community is down, people are probably feeling behind. Like that's probably a sign that they're not there. So you could do kind of like a catch up calendar or like a catch up pacing guide, or like here's how you could watch this like these first couple of things. You could also do a challenge, like an implementation centered challenge of like, okay, we're all going to, for that classroom organization one, like we're all going to organize our desks this week, and at the beginning of the week we're going to post our before, and at the end of the week we're going to post our after, and just like round your people up around the content, get creative with it. It'll make a big difference, especially if people are feeling behind.
You're right, and I love that. I think especially if you can participate yourself too, like to the extent that you're able to, being able to lead the way with that, and like you share a little bit from yours, right? You share your desk, or you share that photo of something that you're doing in your classroom or whatever it is, and kind of leading the way. There's no rule
Yeah.
that says you can't share the same photo if you're doing maybe multiple cohorts or running this over time. There's no
Yeah.
rule that says you can't share the same thing multiple times. So don't feel like you're always creating these from scratch. You can also, just like the emails can be templates, some of these community posts can be templates as well.
Yeah.
You don't want them to feel like, you don't feel disingenuous necessarily. Maybe you refresh the caption or refresh pieces of it, but for you to be present in there too and kind of lead the way, I think that's a nice example, especially for something like a challenge or let's share out what we're doing right now, just because everyone can come as they are, and that's great. So I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Just one piece I thought about while as you were talking about that. I think, especially with a community, I think being involved in the beginning, like I said, front loading that support is nice. But at some point, you want your members talking to one another. So something
Mm,
I did in the beginning in Teacher Hustle University that I think worked really well. I would never answer a question right away.
yeah.
And it would kill me sometimes because I wanted to. Of course, when I first started out, I was in the group like every 5 minutes. Now I have a certain time of the night that I tell my members, like I only check the group in the evenings from like 7:30 to 8. So they know I'm not in there all the time. I would wait like at least 20 minutes. I did not want to be the first person to answer the question because then it just becomes a Q&A between them and the coach. And you really want your community to start to rely on one another. And you can't really kickstart that community without pulling yourself out of it a little bit. So it'll be painful, but like let that question sit for a bit, see if somebody else can chime in. And now in Teacher House University, like I get to the question and 5 people who have been in there for 3 years answered it better than I could by the time I even get there. So it does help with your boundaries in the long run too. And it helps just make that group stronger. And some of the answers are more, they get a bigger variety of perspective than they would from just asking me. I'm not the, end all be all.
Yeah, I think that's important. There's that balance between kind of setting things up and structuring them in a certain way to facilitate that. You have to kind of take the lead on what that structure looks like. But then the whole point of that structure is to encourage, in a community specifically, encourage people to kind of help each other and get that going as time goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Our debate today is, do you listen to your podcasts on high speed or double speed? Do you?
So I can't even fathom listening to it at 1.0 speed. I am at minimum a double speed person.
So if you were
I
listening
don't.
to this podcast right now, you'd have it on double.
Oh, absolutely. Now I will say that it depends on the podcast, kind of how fast I will go. There are some I can go up to like 4x, depending on who it is. I acknowledge about myself, listeners, that I can sometimes speak really quickly. So
Yeah.
I myself might make it hard to listen on faster speeds, but I can't even remember the last time I listened to something on lower than 2x speed. It's unfathomable to me.
I think it
What
depends on
about
the
you?
podcast for me. Yeah, sometimes I listen to podcasts that are really information heavy, and so I can't listen to them on double speed. I don't know. I guess I don't with podcasts. I think I'm not sure why, because I guess maybe because it feels more like a conversation. But I do with books. Books, I am like 4 speed. Give me the Cliffs Notes. I don't have time for this. Like, I can't stand when a book has a giant introduction. Like, no, let's just dive in. Come on, quicker, quicker, quicker.
See, that's so funny because we're opposites in that regard. I actually will say, full disclosure, I don't listen to podcasts very much
Yeah,
anymore
I do
myself.
every day.
When I do, I listen to them quickly, but I don't ever listen to audiobooks because I like to read, partially because I like the slowness and the pace being slower than
Interesting.
just quickly digesting the information. So it's funny how I kind of prefer that, like a book style delivery for that information, and I take my time with that. You really like the conversational style
Yeah.
in absorbing the information, and that's what you want to savor instead.
All right. I know we promised we would keep these quick, so let's end it right there. But I don't want to leave without saying again that we would love to have you check out Pop Studio. We are going to be helping you do all of the things that we mentioned here in this episode today, including giving you the use of our new creator tools on the Pop Studio platform, where we are building right into the platform a lot of the pieces that we've talked about here today. And we would love to have you giving us your ideas and feedback and building right along with us. We are aiming to build a creator platform that also considers the learner and the learner's experience as well, something that only a group of teachers could build. We're really excited, and the link is in the show notes for you to grab your spot in our group coaching or our one-to-one services for Pop Studio that comes with a year of an all access pass to our Pop Studio creator tools within our platform. So we hope to see you over there.